Okay, so you're back for an episode 2 of what wasn't going to be an episode anything, but pretty quickly. We're going to call this thing the call to build. I don't know specifically how. My plan, once I posted this first one from earlier today, I thought, you know what? Let's make this a weekly thing. Let's make this a series. The reason why was I was inspired by the way that the first one carried over, and then ended up with I had ChatGPT write me a quick description, and it was low key fire. None of the scripture was fine. It's always fire, but the hashtags, the hashtag call to build, the call to build, hashtag economic shift, hashtag generational wealth, hashtag the Renaissance Project. I think it was the Renaissance Project side of it that made me, and that's. It just will be a series. My thought, if I had considered it earlier, I might have gone three straight today, just a purge, because I'm like I already got inspired by the episode. And what made me say I'm gonna go ahead and do it, like put this out, is I got inspired for episode 2 and 3. Then I started doing the notes for it, like the outline for 2, because I might want to get that done and have what's on my mind get out there. And then I was about to go ahead and run the outline for 3, but then I'm like, well, I know how my mind and my brain work. I die every day, right? I'm new every day. So this is what I think of today. This is what I got today. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and it's gonna be old hat. But here's the thing about it, is like it's all an iterative process. Listening to Matthew McConaughey and Ryan Holiday discuss writing. And Ryan Holiday talked about how when Marcus Aurelius wrote, I think he was talking about Marcus Aurelius writing Meditations, maybe not that specific. It may not have been that specifically. It may have been somebody else. But he was just talking about at some point somebody writing something, just the idea that like your first 3 chapters trashed, and the idea that through an iterative process, which I mean, this in itself is that this is my iterative process. What I'm about to discuss here is my iterative process so far. This is my entire life in the making. This is 24 years in building, and not just my entire life. This is generations upon generations of culmination of like, yo, this is the answer to our ancestors' prayers. I know it. And yeah, within that idea that, what was I talking about? The answer to the ancestors' prayers. The iterative process. It's that thing in which you keep everything that you think you're throwing away and that you're throwing off to the side, or that maybe won't continue on through the lifeblood or something, is subconsciously influencing everything that comes next, whether through good or bad. Just in the same way that anger, even greed, negative emotions, running from what you don't want, being pulled away from what you don't want, can work just as sort of being pushed toward what you do want, but only for a certain amount of time. Right? At some point, the iterative process has to become, you have to be building. And funny enough, I mean, that goes to the same thing we're talking about here. If you are not producing more income, but your debt goes up, well, so if you're producing more bad than good in your writing, in your iterative process, 2 things. And that I'm about to end it here and go into what I'm talking about. But it's that and I love it. I love where I'm going right now. Forget it. The whole this episode is called Writing the Vision and Making It Plain. That's what I've been really focused on. Like what it means to manifest, what it means to bring your reality. Okay. This is really the one that did it for me. I read a lot of books. This is the one that did it for me. Halim Flowers, Mind Over Matter. Hearing Halim say that he wrote, like what he wrote in this book. Okay, at the end of this book, Halim says, and it may not even be, I want to say at some point he explicitly says like, yo, exactly what I said in this book was going to happen, happened. quote from Marcus Garvey in the beginning: "Whatsoever man has done, man can do." I may just read the introduction of the book real quick. Introduction of the book. Halim says, this book is about faith, about believing in yourself, your goals, and having the necessary determination to see it through until you reach your aim. It is about having a direction, staying focused on your desired destination, and persevering all the hardships that will come along the way. This book is about knowing what you want in life, having the strength to trust your gut instinct, to take a risk in pursuit of your success, about overcoming barriers, bouncing back up after getting knocked on the ground, and holding on to firm conviction in your strategy when everyone else has begun to doubt your methods. This book is about challenging yourself to abandon your comfort zone if you have not yet fulfilled what you believe to be your ultimate purpose in life, and going against all human reasoning and logic to attain that which you always wanted the most, but was too afraid to try because you have always been paralyzed by the fear of failing in your attempt to get it. This book is not about merely striving to just be successful. Rather, this book is about setting out on a path to make history. This book is about accomplishing the impossible. If this book has made it to print and you are now reading it, then history has already been made on my end. That's it. However, this book is not about me, but about you. This book is about destroying the myth that you have to attend the most prestigious universities and get the most degrees to achieve something great in life. This book will show you that most of the people today and in history have not left their mark on this world because they went to the best schools or had the richest family. This book will remind you that everything you need to begin your journey to accomplishing the impossible is already inside of you. Faith, hope, conviction, determination, trust, patience, and love. Without these things, no college degrees, no riches, and no connections will help you reach your goals. Daring to be great. Halim A. Flowers, July 27, 2009. And in 2024, I listened to a podcast with Halim. So I was introduced to Halim through a TikTok from a podcast called Last Mile Radio, where I'm pretty sure, I think they only interview previously convicted, like, former convicts. And from there, I love Guy Kawasaki's Remarkable People. And, Guy Kawasaki wrote, he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. No, it's Robert Kawasaki. Yeah. Anyway, Remarkable People. And he was on there, but this is an episode from like the year before. I think it was 2023 episode, maybe 22. And so I'm listening to it, and it was just in hearing him discuss the idea of calling your shot, of saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to go. I'm not deviating from it. Like, this is it. Do with that what you will, because I'm going to do with it what I will. Whether it be your life plan, a business plan, just a goal, investing, across the board. When you set your mind to something, that's how, and I say when you set, I don't know. That's, again, like, I can't speak for everybody thing. This is one of those things I cannot speak for everybody because I don't know it to be true. For everybody. But I do know that for me and for people like me, because I've heard all the people like me agree to it and say, yep, that's the case for me as well. Which is, I mean, what is an experiment? Leaving room for variables, so my constant seems to be, okay, people like myself, even leaving room for variability, seem to be coming to the conclusion. I keep testing my hypothesis and I keep coming back with the same result. So what does that mean? Well, I talked about before, there's a fine line between insanity, genius, and psychopathy. And I've really been in a deep study recently in the whole writing of the vision and making it plain, because I feel like I'm writing the vision so much. And I feel like I'm going crazy in writing the vision. But I've also been studying insanity and going crazy as far as revolution and what happens when a society, individuals are going crazy and not coping with it. I've said multiple times recently that, if the definition of insanity as described by Einstein is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, insanity exists in the middle as the commonality. That's the core. It's the foundation. But there are two poles of it. There's the intelligent insanity and there's the ignorant insanity. So intelligent insanity is one of two ways. Either you're doing the same thing knowing that the result you're going to get is what you're going to get, but you're expecting that result. That's the result you're looking for. Right? So that's the grind. That's the journey. That's the I'm here, I'm showing up. I tell my kids all the time, not my kids, my students. Being present and being present is 75% to 80% of any job. And I give it 80 because we're talking, the Amaretto principle, or Pareto principle, Amaretto, that's an Amaretto sour. The Pareto principle that says 20% of work begets 80% of results, 80% of results comes from 20% of work, but also vice versa. 80% of work gets that last 20%. Well, I think the 20% that most people don't get, the 80%, most people do show up every once in a while, enough that they're going to get the 80% because the bare minimum is the 80 is what you get. The 20% gets the 80. What I want people to understand that if you do the 80, you get the 20, and it's so not do 80 to only get 20, nor only do 20 to get 80, do 100 to get what you get, knowing that what you put in is what you get. So if you put in 100, you're not going to get out 100. Because like it said, in the same way that as we're heading toward this crash and this crisis where it's the fruit that are coming there, the fruit is just evidence of what has been underground building, say, like going deeper and deeper and deeper, taking its root for so long. Well, in the same way, that's what this is. This is my iterative process. That iteration is the process through which one gets to insanity. But again, like imagination versus innovation. Well, I think imagination is like the highest form of insanity, or the highest form of intelligent insanity. Because at some point, you have to imagine new ways to break from that insanity. Innovation is the process through which it comes about, right? Whatever man has done, man can do. So you look back at what man has done, and then you imagine forward to what man can do based off what man has done. You iterate, and you may go insane, but you birth intelligence. Whereas, and so the other side of intelligent insanity is doing the same thing, and maybe not necessarily expecting a different result, but I guess there would be doing the same thing, knowing that the result you get is what you're looking for, or doing the same thing, because variability, the constant is the constant, but leaving room for variability, knowing that, okay, if I tweak this, that is intelligence. And I think those two really go hand in hand, is that one is the other. You may do the same thing knowing you're going to get the same result and you're okay with it, but I would say another thing I tell my students, make it make sense for you. Get to a point where you can do the work that you're starting to, that you know why it makes sense. And now we can get into the deeper foundational first principles of everything. We can go deeper into the why. Because now once you start with why, once you know your why, they say the man that has a why can withstand any how. Because now I know it's just an iterative process until I get my answer to the question I've asked. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's not only not broke, I know it can be better. Anyway, the ignorant form of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, or probably more and, expecting a different result, or not sticking to the thing, knowing that the result you're getting is what you're looking for, just because it's not because it doesn't look like you want it to look like, what you want it to look like. It's still the result you're looking for. It doesn't have to look like what you want it to look like in order for it to be what you need. I think that's where a lot of people go insane. Right? Because here's the thing about the fruit. You cannot judge the fruit. You have to judge the root. So if the fruit doesn't look like what you want it to look like, look at the root and recognize that what you probably didn't do along the way was those tweaks. Anyway, my iterative process, this is 24 years in the making, and then you can count back 6 years in the making, 5 years in the making, You can give it really any timeline you want to because it is so you can point it back to many different, like there are a lot of different points to pin it to, including this one. The reason I'm doing this at the moment I'm doing it right now is because I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I turned it on. I watched most of the first quarter. Actually, I watched the entire first quarter. One, Robert Kraft stopped the hate ad. There's more money going into ad campaigns for Israel than it's just, yeah. I mean, at a time where we're overturning DEI initiatives and literally getting rid of affirmative action as as a national law, excuse me. But during the Super Bowl, I couldn't. I looked it up when I looked up the ad because I didn't have my glasses on, so I didn't see it. I heard it. I'm like, that was still working. I had it on as like side talk. I looked over and I'm like, is that Snoop Dogg talking about hate? I'm like, what? And I knew immediately because here's the thing. Stop the hate ads don't just exist. Like that's not a common thing. It's only been a thing since Gaza. And yeah, just recognizing like immediately for that to get my attention and to know, oh wow, I got a story to tell too. Yeah, here's what's even crazier. Stop the hate ad. You're saying because it's the foundation against anti-Semitism. Okay. The reason Israel has to exist is because the Nazi Germany tried to exterminate the Jews during the Holocaust. Okay. Nazi Germany tried to exterminate the Jews during the Holocaust. Apartheid state, ghettos, you name it, literally mass extinction. Hitler learned from the Jim Crow South in America, which came following chattel slavery. Robert Kraft can buy a Super Bowl ad to ask people to here. Okay, I'm against Israel. I'm against not against Israel. I'm against the war in Israel. Pro-Palestine, as far as pro the Palestinian people having self-determination. Like, look, we claim life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I want everybody to have that. That's the basic inalienable human rights, right? That's what we claim. Well, I want them to have that too. Here's the thing about that. I don't know that I know any Jewish people explicitly, personally. Can't think of any. But even if I did, there's nothing like I don't. What hate? I know it's probably still happening, yeah, but not in a way that it's like I don't think it's happening enough to have an ad campaign. The only reason you have an ad campaign like that is because you're trying to continue a war. You're trying to justify a war. It's propaganda. All that to say, you can pay for a Super Bowl ad to stop anti-Semitism. What about police brutality? Y'all don't want to do y'all anytime somebody bring up black liberation, black advocacy, Black Lives Matter, and black people having because they're right. Black Lives Matter. No, back to blue lives matter. You don't see any type of pushback like that. And here's what's more: you don't see any type of pushback like that. And what does that tell you? Who would be the people? Look at the people that push back against stuff, against anything, the way that they do. Look at how and why. Who can afford to push back? Notice I haven't even said a single word. I haven't even said the name of the company. Haven't discussed the vision of the project whatsoever, because these are all foundational things that we're talking about starting with why. This is the why. All of this. That we exist in a time, in a world, in a country where wealth inequality is at such an all-time high. That Elon Musk is they're saying he's set to be the first trillionaire. Him and Bezos and Arnault keep going back. Why was Bernard Arnault at the presidential inauguration? You are not American. You want to really play that game? Why is Elon Musk having any government role? He's South African. Anyway, my iterative process. I'm like, look, 20 minutes in, maybe that's all I need. It's called alternative capital. Like I said, I discussed it in the last one, and even touched on the Nipsey lyrics. I'm not going to read them all over again, but what it even made me say, excuse my squeaking chair, and I probably need to get an office chair. I have an office chair. Anyway, one of the things that has been heavy for me, and Nipsey is such a great inspiration for me, because Nipsey, everything I just described is verticals. They're lateral as well, but they're verticals. Nipsey's the one that put me on to vertical integration. He's the reason I understand what vertical integration is. And that's why my foundation is, I'm not afraid of the shaking. Because my why spans far, wide, deep. I have depth, breadth, height, width, all of it. It's heavy, right? This is because I'm an individual that I study first principles. I'm all about root cause. I'm all about foundation because I recognize I've seen too many things, and maybe it's you can call it a fear, insecurity. I do have a fear of abandonment. I have a fear of taking a loss. I just watched Chris Rock Kill the Messenger yesterday, or have watched it over the past 2 days. But the reason why I got to the Kevin Hart on the Joe Rogan podcast was talking about Chris Rock telling the joke of, he said when Chris Rock talked about being rich and being black and how it doesn't feel real, and he keeps a backpack by the door because he's waiting for the people who really own his house to come and take it back. I feel that way every day. Here's why. They can do stuff like that. And the best way I know how in this moment to combat that, I almost like it's an emotional idea, because the only thing I know to do to combat, and it's not combating Robert Kraft or Snoop Dogg or Tom Brady. It's not against them. It's we don't fight against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, spirits, demons. And there is a spirit of something running through this world that the only way I know how to fight is through my voice. This is the gift I've been given. I was blessed with the gift of gab. I'm a tangential thinker. So that combination allows me to, when I open my mouth, words spill out, and then they spark thoughts, and then thoughts spark words, and it's just one constant cycle here. I laugh too because it's a mean feedback loop. E.T. once said that I have no fear of speaking because I know that when I open my mouth, God's going to talk. I'm anointed in that way. And I think back to, people who, again, it's funny reading what people in my life who, throughout different points, claim they have the ultimate belief in me, but tell me things like, I need to, watch my mouth, or not say certain things, or hold myself back, not be too much, or not take over, not take charge, not act like I run the place or own the place, or I'm too cocky, I'm too this. It's told all my life, especially through high school, you don't have a filter. You don't have a filter. I know exactly what I'm saying. Here's the thing. I've always been the most self-aware person anybody's known. If you've ever known me, you've never known a more self-aware person than me. Because it is that fear of of abandonment and of rejection and of disattachment, fear of loss, fear of it all being taken from you. Right? One of my biggest, and it's here, one of my bigger fields of study and passions is Black land ownership and the fact that our wealth was literally stolen from us. Sound familiar? For so many different reasons. Whether we talk about how this country began, whether we talk about what's happening right now in Palestine and Ukraine, or many different places, the Congo, you name it. It seems like there's nowhere where rich white men are not trying to take shit. Excuse pardon my French, it's just the best thing I can think of. And that's us from like, it goes back to the beginning of time. The original sin is rich white men trying to take stuff. And you know what? The issue with that is rich. Because they weren't rich white men before they were rich white men. So the original sin is white men trying to take stuff. I mean, that's just, I won't say it's a fact, but it is as close to an objective opinion shared by the majority of this world that I can think of. I know few things that it may not be a universal truth, but you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that disagrees with that's not a white man, specifically a rich white man, or the beneficiary of a rich white man. That's the only person who's not, like the only group of people who's not, and that's because they benefit from it. So in the context of who traced the power, excuse me. But Nipsey said, you can look a gift horse in the face and not know what you're looking at. And I feel like I'm looking at the gift horse and I'm just one of the ones that knows what I'm looking at. You know what I mean? It's actually an incredible time. It's like a gold rush. Never been a time like this in our generation. Equivalent of the gold rush with everybody moving to California. Technology has empowered everybody. It's giving people as big as you want to make it and as far as you want to take it. We can cut a gang of things going on in the world right now. You can accept as being true, but giants gonna crumble, big companies gonna crumble, new companies gonna pop up out of nowhere. It's gonna be dramatic, and I believe that, and I do too. Like I was saying, the only way I know how, with my present resources, with what I presently have, to combat these powers, these principalities, this evil running rampant, is this. It's the medium I've been using for the past 3 years. Because it literally, I mean, I don't know where else to turn. I have my conversations on a day-to-day with people in the real world, and yet nothing seems to change. But here's why. They don't change. And I don't understand. If my motto is I can turn a parable to a poor man and make him a prophet, what seems to confuse me especially is how much everybody seems to agree with everything I have to say as if they already know it. Which does two things. One, to me, it makes me say, okay, I think I need to go back to the drawing board on a lot of this stuff. Because it's one thing to say confirmation bias, but it's another thing that if you, in a contrarian sense, believe that everybody else, for the most part, has got it wrong at consensus. The thing is, clearly, okay, well, it resonates because it makes sense. That's clear. But if you're not implementing it, is it because you can't? Is it because I'm not articulating the action steps enough? What is it? And E.T. talks about all the time. E.T. and the guys talk about how everybody complains about them not making it practical. Right? The write the vision, make it plain. Well, the idea here, the whole concept there is put it on paper, write it, and it says write it on tablets. Well, 19 Keys put this idea, him and Billy Carson, feel how you want to feel, but they put the idea in front of me that the reason I say like this is the best I can think of is because this medium is telepathy at its finest, right? When we talk about clay tablets and stone tablets, well, today's clay and stone tablet is the iPad. when they brought up the idea, it was after the Olympics, during the Olympics, about, man, like actually some of the most talented probably gymnasts aren't even participating because they don't have the access to the coaches, to the resources, to the platform to boost their, what Nipsey say, no genius, he just can't claim it because they left him no platform to explain it. He also said there's a couple niggas every generation that wasn't supposed to crack the code, but the code wasn't supposed to make it out, but the code in the matrix. And when they get to speak, it's like a code of language. Remind niggas of all their strength and all the stolen greatness. Both of those point to say, when you have, like the most talented gymnast in the world, maybe not even competing in the Olympics because he doesn't have access to what we have in America. You know what back in the day, Stone Tyler or something, because everything that we experience came from a thought. Everything. And so if man's done it, man can do it. Well, at some point, man had to imagine it. Because if intelligent insanity, well, here's the coolest thing. They definitely, at some point, in the beginning of time, were just going insane. Especially because the only way we know time passes is through change. And there was not enough change probably happening for them. In the way, like it was not, like we know time is passing now because there is so much rapid innovation and iteration and change. You may get multiple updates of it happen one day. Think about the idea that like we know we have anticipation for things so far out these days because of what we have access to. And there's something to be said about the fact that the reason we're able to do so is because we have so many things along the way that can fill. And that's what so many things, so many distractions, side quests, side stories, ancillary ideas and concepts. Oh, I want to pursue this real quick. Personal projects that take us off of our path. Here's the thing about that. When your direction is set, when your vision is set, the alchemist, but you got to always get back on that path. You stay too long, you will stray. That little boy so at this point, that's why I'm like, this is the best medium I can fathom to get my voice out, because my hope is that, I said, one of my other models, each one teach one, each one teach a million. If I can reach one, not just one, if I can reach one that will go on to teach one. Something else Nipsey put on to me is the contagion effect by Jonah Berger. That's not what the book is called. It's called Contagious. It's how ideas spread through word of mouth, the viral effect. The idea that, and it's funny too, what made me even want to do this whole thing again, it's when you see the way that exposure gives you confidence. And when I watched that Ooby Dooby video, the guy that was a neuroscientist or neurosurgeon that left his job to go do whatever, and posted that video about the healthcare system, the way in which that went viral, because it was real. And it was clear that this was somebody that said, I don't know where else to turn. I have all this information, this insight, this intelligence to pass forward, and I don't know what to do with it. Side note, in that context, going back to the people who there wasn't enough change, so that was able to mark time for real. Well, that's probably how. At some point, intelligence, because that is what we do have. That's why the brain has grown over time. Because, and that's a whole, we'll probably had a conversation. As I'm thinking now, like, what it probably have felt like to be maybe not the first man, but like to be one of the original men that, tapped into that power within and tapped into the infinite intelligence and really was like, oh, and imagined. Like, what was it like to imagine at the beginning of time. That's a yo, and that's like, because then that's where I want to start talking about aliens and pyramids and a whole and everything, just very get real Halim Flowers ish. But yeah, that kid. So the Ooby Dooby video, you see somebody like that go out and talk about what they talked about, and you're like, interesting. So this is what it looks like for an individual to spontaneously. I call organic intention the idea that, when you follow your intuition with purpose, you're led to these really cool experiences and outcomes. Something real special about that. And that's what that feels like. It's like you get to this point of just, I don't care. I just started this morning the sort of Art and I Given an F by Mark Manson, and maybe it's after chapter 1. I didn't got the principles already because I don't know. I don't care. Another thing I say all the time is from in the movie Home Alone when Kevin McAllister, when he finally comes out now, I'm not afraid anymore. That's how I'm always like. That's when Jay says, to this day, Grandma afraid. What I might say, they would have to. I did a whole 30 episodes of a podcast, and one of them was called America's Worst Nightmare, and I mean it. I'm young, I'm black, I'm gifted, and I don't care. Because they haven't. If you haven't given a damn about me and mine for all this time, why should I care about how you feel about how we care about ourselves? About how I care for mine? That's not your business. But they've made it their business because they know that the second black people get free, everybody gets free. Intersectionality is real. It's all connected. It's a reason that when we talk about race war, it always centers around the black man and the white man. And just think about it. Let's be for real. Follow the money, follow the power. Who benefits from making sure that black people never reach their full potential? Who benefits from making sure that I shut the hell up? Who benefits, even if it's not actions taken to take advantage of said benefit, who benefits from the death of millions of black bodies yearly? Maybe that millions is excessive, but damn near hundreds a day, seem like. Who benefits from black men in Chicago running up on each other and killing entire families because they didn't know, because they just shoot? Who benefits from the out of control drug culture and obesity rates and our healthcare system being absolutely trash and crime being gun violence? Who benefits? You got these people screaming, literally overturning Roe v. Wade, but will not get rid of assault rifles, and you question why. Well, I can think of two things that would. One, you're selling the damn weapons to other countries, and then turning around and saying, war, please stop. America has always been the world's arms dealer. Which is crazy because when you are the world's arms dealer, that's also supposed to be the world's defender, but is also the world's greatest agitator, the world's best provocateur, But then you claim a policy of neutrality. But then you're supposed to be the bastion, the vanguard for allyship for the good guys. Two things can be and are true. None of those can all be true at once. None of those things can be true at once. But you know when they can be? I would call that multiple personality disorder, akin to psychopathy. Fine line between that and insanity. What leads one to revolution? When you don't know where to turn. I love that video of Tupac talking about when, like, if you're outside of a hotel room and you know, you and yours, y'all starving. And they every time they open the door, you look in there, you're like, yo, they got a full. And you knock on the door, hey, can we get something to eat? And then, no, nigga, get out, no. Sorry, I think I can't say that word on YouTube. Hope I don't get banned. No, you can't have that. Close the door. Okay, door's back up. Yo, they got more. Hey, yeah, no, we're still pretty hungry. Can we get some food? No, get out of here. Scram. Okay. He said at some point, he said, when you start singing, you try to get their attention. We hungry. Can we please have some food? We hungry. And then, no, get out of here. Okay, well, at some point, hey, open up. We hungry. Well, okay. They're definitely not going to say yes then. Okay, on that last time, I'm not asking. Nor am I knocking. I'm breaking the door down. I'm taking the food. Because now it's between you and me. Now it's a battle. It's a matter of survival. But that's also when the oppressed becomes the oppressor, because now I'm taking from you. And because you've made sure that I've gone without for so long, I'm gonna take so much from you that you don't have ever again. Or at least for a little while. Now, here's my thing. I'm not saying I fully disagree with that. But logically, here's the crazy thing. Logically, that's how insanity occurs. That is the logical pathway to insanity. Isn't it insane that there is a logical path to insanity? That should tell you that there are laws of the universe, there are principles to abide by, that when you break them, things happen. What goes around is going to come around. And America has been sending out bad energy, bad vibes. The vibes are bad. The vibes have been bad for a very long time. The vibes in America have been off and been bad here's what, in watching a Chris Rock special I'm like, yo, everything he's saying here, you could convince me that the only reason I know his special is not from 2025 is the language he's comfortable using. Which, I mean, if our First Amendment right is the freedom of speech, and the only thing that's changed is that we've lost rights, we've lost freedom. Well, if time is marked by change, and going back to conservative beliefs, conservative policy is antithetical to human progress, and insanity is marked by doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So let's connect the dots here. Things are not only not progressing and not changing, we're going backwards. And it's driving us insane because we don't know how to get out of it. Because we're not causing it. But we are. Because James Allen says that evil is a byproduct of ignorance. And as I say, ignorant insanity, well, what's the best way to maintain your population insanity, to keep them from being able to solve any problems? Right? Because that imagination thing, the reason that they were able to imagine and that their insanity didn't turn into ignorance is because there was nothing there. Like, if speeding up, there's so many distractions. So yes, you may have this thing that you've been told about 2 years ago that you've been waiting for. But there's so many distractions along the way, and even more, those distractions are big enough that they may somehow keep you from even taking advantage or participating in being within that big thing that you've been waiting for, that you've been. That's how this works. Well, they didn't have those distractions, right? Same reason that Einstein, I'm like, well, the reason he was able to dedicate his life to his work, he didn't have social media. There was no social media for Einstein to get distracted by. He couldn't pop on Spotify and go listen to all the new music, or watch all the new movies on Netflix, watch all the YouTube videos, listen to all the podcasts, read all the books, talk to all the people, eat all the food, see all. He couldn't do that. So why? Yeah, the reason I'm like in watching that, I don't like the feeling of being flooded with, and that's what I'm like. I'm talking about, watching for the commercials. I'm gonna watch for the commercials for. I don't even use social media. I don't watch the news for that. I hate ads because I know what they are. I know exactly what they are and what they're for. Even more, I know that and can still be manipulated. That says a lot about how powerful these things are, about how powerful the knowledge of the individuals that are behind the power systems are. Things are not changing. I'm like, when I went back to listen to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, I'm like, 50 years later, and this is the same song. We got money for wars but can't feed the poor, and Brenda's got a baby. Now Brenda's got a baby. Brenda used to at least be 22. Brenda's 12 now. Brenda's 12. Ignorant insanity is the thing that I say leads to revolution, and also, if ignorance is what begets evil, that ignorance that leads to insanity is what begets revolution. I just think it's almost poetic. It's poetic in the sense that, like, it's Shakespearean. It's Shakespearean level tragedy of because what we're talking about, nobody wins. There is no winner. This is the zero-sum game. Denial of humanity is the zero-sum game. It is. It just is. It's the one where everybody loses. Nobody wins that game. So, yeah, it's 50 minutes in already, and I haven't said a word about on Cap for Room. So, I don't know. Maybe that's a separate conversation. I don't know. I don't know. Because these are things that need to be talked about, and they're just not being. I know this. I mean, I do. I know because, like I said, when I look at it, I'm like, I'm having these conversations, and people seem to be agreeing, but it's because I know that the only time they're having these conversations probably is when they're with me. There's not enough of us doing this. And so when there's not enough of us doing this, and there's so many of them doing that, well, it's just, none of it's surprising to me. And it breaks my heart. Jay said, I was speaking to the souls of men, those of them that are willing to die for the existence of this cold world as showed for them. I mean, here's what's especially crazy. If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for. Or if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I think people hear that and they think like you're just gonna fall. No, you don't stand for something if you don't have a foundation to stand on. Here's the thing about the hill to die on. The hill to die on, at least you've chosen to die on that hill. You don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, because when what's shaken, anything that is not rooted in found in real foundational godly principles will fall. So anything rooted in ignorance will fall. Anything not built in foundation, in why, in first principles, right, that doesn't start with why, in a heartfelt, real, good, deep why, will fall. It does feel that simple to me. So I'm like, yeah, you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, you have to have something that you're willing to die about, because if you don't, you'll get killed with nothing but you'll live with nothing but regrets and be killed having pursued nothing, having cared about nothing. I say killed, not necessarily, but like you'll fall because you get pushed. It's not just a fall, or maybe it is. It was beautiful. I love McConaughey. Reframing, listening to a podcast today called The Good Life Project. Oh man, I wanted to talk about the Renaissance Project. So yeah, maybe I think we'll wrap this here. Next, we'll talk about the Renaissance Project in all cap and the road to $1 billion. Probably separate the Renaissance Project in all cap. Renaissance Project will discuss, like I said, that iterative process. Alternative cap will also discuss iterative process from the past handful of years. That road to 1 billion will then push forward. So that's what we'll do. We'll trace backward, we'll trace present, and we'll trace forward. Principles of divine thinking. But yeah, so just as a wrap, McConaughey he said, the interviewer, the host of the podcast, said that he couldn't remember exactly maybe he did, but I don't remember who to attribute the quote to. But it was something along the lines of, okay, like here's how to look at life. The bad news is you're falling. There's nothing to grab onto. There's nothing for you to reach out for. There's nothing to catch you. The good thing is there's no ground. And when you frame it that way, man, okay, I can live with that. But especially if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And McConaughey said, okay, here's a way to even more reframe it. What if you reframe it as, instead of falling, you're rising, right? Like instead of, head first, you're diving, right? You shoot, you aim your body, direction. You give yourself direction. Once you give yourself direction, you're no longer falling. Speaking of the souls of men, those of them that are willing to die for the existence that this cold world has chosen for them. To this day, Grandma afraid what I might say, they would have to kill me, Grandmama, I'm not their slave. It's a process, it's a journey. We are headed towards something. This is the call to build. This is the call to be prepared. This is the call to stand up. This is the call to be who you've been called to be. Nothing more, nothing less. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. It'll be lonely. But it'll be worth it. God, it'll be worth it. To be on the right side of history, and the right side of God, and the right side of yourself. I think that's the well done point. That's all I wanted to hear. Well done. So, peace. It's M.E. Hendrix. M.E. and thank you for being with me. I like that. It's M.E. and thank you for being with me. Like I said, next time I will go over alt cap, what that whole concept is. But, hopefully soon enough. Somebody, like I said, I'll know I've made it once I do my media tour. I'm starting with The Breakfast Club, Earn Your Leisure, High Level Conversations, Secret to Success podcast. Yeah, I'll make my little list. John O'Brien, Money and Wealth, Jamal Bryant, probably do him. Adam Grant, move around. But yeah, when I start my media tour, the Teflon tour, we'll talk about that too. Teflon weekend, Teflon tour, Teflon travels, Teflon. And that's where the Renaissance Project began. So I look. It's far from my first time on the camera, broadcasting my message and getting my voice out there. Won't be the last because I have a desire, a need, a principle, a core value to spread my message and my knowledge and information that I obtain and consume, and just to be that light for people, to be the voice for the voiceless. So that's it.